Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar dedicated to the situation of Ukraine executives and companies' needs and opportunities. This webinar, which is addressed to both business communities, is the first step of the collaboration established between the Spanish Association of Executives and the European Business Association in order to connect Spanish and Ukrainian executives with the aim to support them and their companies as much as possible in these difficult times. I would like to thank, first of all, to Anna Derevianco, Executive Director of ABI, and all of her team for accepting our proposal and helping us to make this Spain-Ukraine connection a reality. Also, many thanks to the exceptional group of speakers that are joining us today in this one-hour webinar. They will explain us what is the real situation in the economic field and also different sectors of activities in Ukraine. And they will also give us a clue of how Spanish executives may render support. They are Thomas Fiala, CEO of Dragon Capital, Anna Derevianco, Executive Director of ABI, Oliver Girlix, CEO of Bayer Ukraine, Olga Kopika, Chair of the Logistics Committee of ABI, Igor Nazarov, CEO of Brown Forman, Dmitry Shimkiv, Executive Chairman of Darnitsa, and Anastasia Shevchenko, CEO of Lugera. Thank you very much to all of them for being with us in this situation. At the end of this webinar, we will share with you not just this video and some of the information that will be shared with you in the following minutes, but also very clear instructions of how Spanish and Ukrainian companies and executives may get in touch through the connection bridge that we have built between AED and the EVA to help Spanish and Ukraine collaboration. As most of you know, the Spanish Association of Executives was created in 1996 to group top executives, and currently we run multiple projects to create an appropriate environment that boosts our community members' development. Given the conflict that's happening in Ukraine, we believed that we should put all our best efforts to support our colleagues from Ukraine. And that's the reason why we are here. So let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce you, first of all, to Thomas Fiala, former president of the European Business Association and CEO and founder of Dragon Capital. He is chairman of the supervisory board of the Center for Economic Strategy and member of the board of Transparency International Ukraine and the Kyiv School of Economics. Thomas, thanks so much for being with us. First of all, I hope you and your family are okay.
Thank you very much for organizing this call and for having us. Yes, my family is outside of Ukraine. I am myself in Western Ukraine for the last couple of weeks.
Okay, great. Thomas, could you give us a brief overview of how is the situation in Ukraine in terms of the economy and the business?
The situation is extremely difficult. I am Czech by origin, but I have been doing business in Ukraine since 1996 for 26 years. I have gone through several crises here, including 2008, 2009, and then in 2014-15, the first Russian invasion into Ukraine, when GDP declined in 14-15 by almost 17% over those 2 years. So those were difficult times, but nothing compares to the challenges that business and Ukraine as a country faces right now. Unfortunately, well, most of us did not expect that this would be possible. Such a full-scale war in Europe these days in the 21st century. It caught us definitely by surprise when we all woke up on the 24th of February at 5 a.m. Because of big explosions not far from where we live. So this is and have basically become all refugees in our country. I also did not expect to face such challenge both personally and business-wise. So it's extremely difficult initially, but you adjust to everything. I can give you a couple bullet points about say what impact the war has had so far on the economy and what we expect further this year. Everything depends on the lengths and strengths of the conflict going forward, obviously. And then my own business, what has happened and how we react in such a situation. So overall, if you look at Ukraine's economy overall, there have been certain polls made. Over 50% of people who worked before the war, they are not working at all right now. And of the remaining half, of the remainder, about a quarter works partially, and less than 20% of employees work full-time these days. So the economy, IMF expects GDP to decline between 30-35% this year. So that is huge. Again, it depends on when the conflict is going to be over. What this means for most businesses is that they have to cut salaries quite substantially and have to cut staff. Also, we see that across the board, it obviously varies from industry to industry. Also, export-import, most of Ukraine's exports have been going through the Black Sea ports. They are now all closed because Russia blocks Black Sea and these ports. So Ukraine cannot export. About 40% of Ukraine's exports are soft commodities. That's grains, corn, wheat. Ukraine accounts for about 10% of worldwide exports of wheat, about 17% of exports of corn, and 50% of exports of sunflower oil. So this already has a big impact on world food prices. Because Ukraine has been exporting about 5 to 6 million tons of grain per month. So this is now completely on hold. The only alternative is a railway to Europe, to Central Europe. But the capacity of the railway is substantially smaller than the ports. It's up to 10 times less capacity. It has also similar impact on exports of iron ore and steel, where Ukraine is also one of the largest players in the world markets. So here, this conflict will have a very big impact on prices for food across the world. Right now, the spring is starting, so the planting campaign has to start. The estimates of the Ministry of Agriculture and of various agricultural companies and associations is that if the situation remains as it is, Ukraine will be able to plant about half of what it did last year. So the output would be also only half of last year, and exports next marketing year will be also substantially less than this year. So again, a big impact on you see it in food prices across the world already. On the banking sector, that has been also impacted quite substantially, but this is working. The central bank has moved to Western Ukraine. They have backup facilities, so the banking sector has been operating with substantial limitations. You can buy foreign currency only for critical imports. So that's substantially limited, very substantial capital controls. The exchange rate has been fixed at the level where it was the first day of the war to the US dollar. There is also, let's say, market or unofficial rate if you want to buy foreign currency for cash. That is only about 10% weaker than the fixed exchange rate. So that's actually a surprise that the devaluation has been not very substantial, only about 10%. It was more initially, but less. Also, all utilities are working: electricity, gas, working except for the areas that are occupied or shelled by the Russians. As for my own business, to conclude, the situation is quite bad. Basically, most of the businesses that we have built up here over the last 20 years are now on hold, basically frozen. Very few, only those that are in Western Ukraine, are working. So revenues are close to zero. We have to live off the savings that we had before. Didn't reduce any staff, but had to reduce salaries, the higher salaries. So put a salary cap, paying the lower salaries unchanged, but the higher ones we had to reduce. Kept all the people employed, and we can last this way for 6 months or so. If the war continues, and then we'll have to see if we need to make some further cuts or reductions. Obviously, our situation is much better than for businesses or people who live in Mariupol or other occupied cities, where the situation is much worse. But if we compare to where we were 2 months ago, then probably the mark-to-market, the value of our business in Ukraine is down 90% as of now. So quite a big loss. We invest. We are the largest investor here in logistics infrastructure and warehouses. Unfortunately, 2 of those warehouses, about 130,000 square meters, have been shelled by the Russian army, and they have completely burnt, including the products in them. So that is over $60 million worth of losses, just the value of the buildings, and plus the products that were there by tenants. It's another $60-70 million worth of products. And unfortunately, insurance does not cover these losses if they happen during the war. So this is quite unfortunate. The only way to get certain compensation is if Russia will be forced to pay reparations to Ukraine and to businesses in Ukraine in the future, which we would be obviously very interested for Western countries to create an escrow fund with the assets that are being frozen in the West, or with the proceeds from oil and gas exports that are being considered to compensate the country. As for Ukraine's losses, I mean, as of now, there are different estimates, but the infrastructure that has been damaged in this first months of the war is probably worth about $100 billion. Could be more. That's roads, bridges, thousands of buildings, etc. So the reconstruction effort, if the war hopefully finishes, will be huge and will take years to rebuild everything that the Russian bombing of civilian and infrastructure areas has cost. I can conclude on that. Happy to answer other questions.
Well, Thomas, thanks for your explanations. It's a devastating situation, what you are telling us. Of course, you have all our support, you and all the EVA members. We hope that this project that we have built together with you may help in some way to match some of the needs that you may have in this situation, and hopefully in the future. So thank you very much for being with us, Thomas. Congrats on the exceptional work that you're doing at the ABI. We are quite aware of the job that you're doing for your members, and it's fantastic given the circumstances. So thank you very much, Thomas. We're going to go deeper to the situation that Thomas has shared with us. And first of all, I would like to introduce you to Anna Deverenko. She is the executive director of ABI, and she will explain us a little bit more about the different activities that ABI has done and what's the situation that, put it in numbers, they have detected making a survey among their members. So Thomas, thanks again, and Anna, welcome, and go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Javier, for the opportunity to meet you and your colleagues. Just to everyone, I would like to say that European Business Association in Ukraine brings over 1,000 of member companies, which generated before the war more than 2 million of jobs in Ukraine. So this is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, association for foreign business in Ukraine. And of course, for us, as for anybody else in Ukraine, it was a huge shock on 24th of February. I can support actually words of Tomasz, who was saying that no one was expecting this kind of full-scale invasion in Ukraine. And I remember lots of polls and surveys which we were been doing before the war. And when we were asking the CEOs of big multinational firms and Ukrainian entities, what do they feel when it comes to the potential risk of full-scale invasion, and 99% of respondents were saying that they don't see any possibility of full-scale invasion. So that's why 24th was like a cold shower for everyone. And the first week or two, it was, I would say, the first priority is to save yourself, your families, and somehow regroup and reshape your operations and activities, so that at least to come to the third week of war, where you can at least somehow try to reshuffle your operations and start to do business. When it comes to the European Business Association, we try to stay as a hub for business, as information and coordination hub. And immediately we launched a series of different polls to understand how our business community feels. Because on the second day of the war, we already started to be full-fledged online and again, continuing cooperation and communication with companies. And the first week or two showed on our polls that operational activities of companies from sector to sector and from company to company differs. As you see on the slide, majority of companies, not majority, but 29% of companies do not work. The same amount actually switched online. Those ones who could do that, it is primarily those ones who are in services sector, who have no any physical presence on the ground, and they can actually operate online. Then we see that some companies, 27%, suspended activities, but want to resume them as soon as the war is over. Then we also see that only 17% of companies work in full, and I can tell you that this is really heroic, like heroes, and what they are doing, because the banking system, by the way, works really perfectly well with restrictions, but nevertheless everything works okay. Communication works okay, logistics works okay, but it really requires lots of efforts from the teams of those companies which are servicing those needs. And actually what I hear now, that more and more companies are really moving their offices to the western part of Ukraine, at least to look for safety. At the stage where we made the poll, it was a few weeks ago, only 1% of companies wanted to close business in Ukraine or close them completely. When it comes to the micro businesses, of course, for them, the situation is much more difficult, because 42% of micro businesses do not work completely and 13% work online. And more or less comparable picture to big firms, 13% work in full. The next question which we raise to our companies is financial sustainability and stability, and for how long they have reserves in order to sustain their operations. And again, as you see on the slide, we see two types of responses, small and big companies. For big firms, 43% have enough financial resources for few months. 28% have actually reserves for half a year, and only 17% of companies for a year or more. And primarily when it comes to a year or more, we are talking about international firms, because international players, global players will most likely get support from their headquarters. When it comes to micro businesses, situation is more difficult. 32% have several months reserve, 24% have no reserves at all, and 22% of respondents have only 1 month of financial stability support below. The next slide is regarding salaries and support of employees of companies. And here we see actually a really quite strong support of different actors in Ukraine, in big employers. They try to sustain and support people, like Tomasz, for example, did. Some pay in full salaries, some pay actually part of salaries, but at least majority do not want to sacrifice people. They do not want to fire them immediately. At least they would like to see how the situation is going to develop. And as you see from figures, 63% of companies pay salaries in full, 45% make make additional payments or advance payments, only 3% cut salaries, and 1% provided unpaid leaves or reduced staff. And below you see situation in micro businesses, whereas 29% reimburse relocation of you see here that actually 29% of big businesses, they reimbursed relocation of staff. 23% even rented accommodation in Western Ukraine and abroad, and 1% have got insurance for those who continue to work. The next slide shows also support to Ukrainian army, and you see also actually really lots of patriotic spirits everywhere in Ukraine, both in business, in civil society, and government. Everybody is really working as one team in order to approach the victory of Ukraine. We see here again the responses from businesses, how they support Ukrainian forces, and 41% believe that they they say that they help financially. 35% support mobilized employees, 31% supply production and supply services. So everything companies can do, they are doing in order to really get rid of the war in Ukraine. Now the next slide, and this is the final, I guess, two final slides. Actually, it what needs to be done and what can be done to support both Ukraine and also businesses. Of course, it's somehow we asked ourselves what shall be done, and there is lots of opportunities to support our country, and we decided to segregate into two questions: how to help the country and how to help the business community. When it comes to country, of course, country needs humanitarian assistance, and in case you would be ready to provide that, of course, all the needs are available on the platform, which is a Second Chance Bank. We just deliberately redirected this platform to the war needs, because initially it was sustainability platform, like a hub for businesses in order to share products. But now this is an information platform where you can really see what it's needed to support our country to win. Then you can also provide financial assistance to the country and information about accounts of armed forces. Other needs are also available. So whatever you can need actually in this respect, just ask us. We will provide you with information. When it comes to the business community, again, we were thinking in which way to support, and when we were asking our businesses, what do you need in order to sustain? Number one response was peace. We need to get peace in Ukraine, and afterwards we will be ready to restore our operations and properly work. But this is at the short term, will most likely not be possible. But then, in case you would be able to support the EBA, we have number of platforms or services which need support. We ourselves, we can actually, by the way, function minimum by the end of the year or maybe even next year, because we were lucky enough to generate membership fees for the whole year in the beginning of the year. So it gives our almost 100 employees team to continue working full time and all the time for the membership. But still, I guess whatever you can do to support both the team, which can redirect support to the business community, is really welcome. Also, we thought about the need to mentally support actually and psychologically support employees, children, workers. So whatever you can provide as service also would be really welcome. Next thing is communication support. It's necessary to share news, what's going on in Ukraine, those murders and crimes which have been happening. It's just necessary not to fall under propaganda of Russia, because people are really dying, and this is peaceful and civilians. Then it's possible to share like for example with international partners about humanitarian needs which Ukraine needs. So this is also possible, and support businesses in finding new clients. And basically we were thinking actually to launch campaign by Ukrainian. So this is at least our proposals, our humble opinion, what could be done. And I would like to immediately send thanks to Spanish people, because you also warmly receive Ukrainian refugees. We feel your hospitality, your warm welcome, because I'm personally in Spain now, and I'm really looking forward to cooperation between associations and also individually, because this is something which is really very much needed to make the whole democratic world to win. Because I guess that Ukraine is now fighting not only for ourselves, but it is also fighting the democracy and the freedom of the whole normal world.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you for helping us to understand the impact of the situation in different businesses in Ukraine, and also for the different projects that you're developing to help your community. And of course, we are very happy to help as much as we can. We will share afterwards this webinar how all our community can help to these needs that you have specified, and those that our next speakers will show up. We have with us Oliver Girliks. He is the CEO of Bayer Ukraine. We have also Olga Kopika, Logistics Committee Chair at the ABI. And we have also Igor Nazarov, CEO of Brown-Forman Ukraine. They will give us maybe a deep look to some of the sectors that are being more affected because of this situation. As you know, the Ukrainian economy is a very open economy, so they may affect also to the European Union and also to Spain, as we are seeing these last days. So thank you very much, Oliver, Olga, and Igor. Thanks for being with us. And Oliver, if you can start, we can start with you and give us the situation that you see from the Bayer perspective and chemical industry.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, and also thanks for having me here. Before I talk about the situation of our company, the most important thing that we have on our priority list is, of course, the security of our staff. That was the first thing when, as Anna pointed out, it came to a surprise. It had not been impossible, but it came still to a surprise, which violence Russia attacked Ukraine. And after a very short period of improvisation, we got to the point that we got a very well and good structured tracking. So the good news is we have no employees hurt or killed so far today. That is a very good thing. Part of our employees have fled Ukraine. The majority is still in the country. When it comes to Bayer and our support, because Anna mentioned it, we continue to pay the full salaries. We paid immediately another 1,000 euro net to every employee to pay for transport, accommodation, food, water on short notice. We paid salaries earlier, we paid our bonuses earlier, and we pay now per diem payments on top for those who are outside of the country to take care of accommodation and their standard living. And we are paying additional lump sum payments for those who are in Ukraine, and we are renting accommodation in the west of Ukraine so that they can have shelter. So this is part of what we are doing. We have organized some transport out of Kiev and others, but I will not go further into details. So we are fully operational and we are delivering to our customers. Our sector is pharma, the OTC business, also under pharma, and our agro business. We have a warehouse not too far away from Kiev, which is still accessible, and we are delivering in the pharma area, from where we are delivering to a certain extent distributors, but we are delivering also a lot of donations to the Ministry of Health and to hospitals. So it is, again, I repeat it, operational. We can access it, and it works. In the area of agro business, which is, and Thomas pointed it out, of high importance for the country, a little bit the same. We are producing seeds in the country. Due to the cycle, 3/4 of the seeds had been delivered before the war started, and we are now continuing to deliver as far as we can. The production site, which is also our warehouse, is close to the conflict zone in the Zhytomyr region, and therefore we are very cautious in doing it. Whenever the situation allows for it, we are delivering product, but we have to stop operations in sometimes, and now because of the curfew, we also had to stop operations for a certain period. When it comes to our pesticides, our CP products, we have a warehouse that is more difficult to access. We have, in very short period of time, opened another one in the western Ukraine, from where we are also delivering our customers. Again, also here in the seeds area, we are not only selling our product, but we are also providing free products, donations. We know about the importance of that production for the country, and therefore we are just now trying to donate more than 40,000 bags of corn, which represents a value of 2 million euro, or to say it differently, 29,000 hectares of corn production. The difficulty that we are facing is not the fact that we want to give out the corn. The difficulty is the distribution in the country, because there's a multitude of farmers who need it. There's a lack of infrastructure, not so much in the West yet, but there's a lack of transport opportunities and a lack of fuel. So that is our bigger problem here, more than our willingness to do so. I think that is when it comes to our business. In general, again, we are in key sectors. So we have been donating substantially to the country. We have donated 3 million euro so far. Employees have collected money via employees worldwide for more than 1 million euro, which will be matched again by the company by the same amount. We have donated in the very early stage antibiotics for more than 27,000 units, which means that is for 27,000 people, roughly. We continue to donate upon request from the Ministry of Health medicines. So the donation part is quite significant from our end to support, especially in the humanitarian aid, the country, and to make sure that it can continue to operate.
Thank you very much, Oliver, and congratulations to you, your team, and Bayer for this response to the situation. You have talked about the difficulties in the distribution activities, and we have with us also to Olga Kopika. You're chairing the committee for logistics in the ABA. So Olga, nice to meet you and to hear your opinions about how is the situation affecting not just within the Ukraine territory, but also on the exportation activities.
Hello, Javier. Is sound good? Do you hear me well?
Yes, perfect.
Well, I would say hello. We are from Ukraine. This is a very common phrase now in Ukraine for those people who are continuing staying in Ukraine. I'm particularly staying in Kyiv, in the capital of Ukraine. So. Well, I will start from and focus on infrastructure because I'm a chair of the logistics committee of the EBA, and then I am also working for Bunge Ukraine. This is an agri-trading company known worldwide. So I will also focus on some information what we are doing now in Ukraine. Tomasz already mentioned some figures around total damage which faced Ukrainian infrastructure. As of now, I will tell about an official figure which was announced by the Kyiv School of Economics in Ukraine. This is the institute in Ukraine, and on the date of 17th of March, the total damage was amounted in $62 billion. US dollars, yes. So this $62 billion, this is the amount, is really huge. And if you're talking about civil infrastructure, we know that as of now, they were fully destroyed 15 airports in Ukraine. We lost about 15,000 kilometers of roads. We lost 5,000 kilometers of railway network. So this amount is really big, around 350 of bridges and so on and so on. I will start from I will focus on some specific types of transportation, and I will start from the seaports because as of now it's the main damage for Ukraine because before there was 77% of all export from Ukraine was focused through was exported through Ukrainian ports. We have in Ukraine 13 ports. And as of now, it totally blocked 10 ports. And these are the main ports through which the export actually went. And now we have only 3 small ports in Ukraine which are located and which may export through Dunai River. However, they have very low capacity, and it's almost nothing in comparison with what we did previously in Ukraine. So if you're talking about, for instance, grain commodities, 95% of grain commodities were exported through Ukrainian ports. If you're talking about metal ore and ferrous metals, 93% of them were exported through Ukrainian ports. If you're talking about Ukrainian sunflower oil, vegetable oils, 90% of them were also exported through Ukrainian ports. Now all this is totally blocked and stopped due to Russian vessels preventing us from passing to and from Ukraine. And so this means that this is all the supply chains which were operating previously now are fully destroyed, and we now are facing the necessity to fully rebuild all the supply chains. And in this way, railway, this is national operator in Ukraine, railway, Ukrzaliznytsia, is now of high importance because the role of Ukrzaliznytsia is extremely high in ensuring security and in ensuring development of economics in wartime. First of all, Ukrzaliznytsia transported more than 2 million of refugees during the months of war. Transportation of passengers by Ukrzaliznytsia is the safest way of transportation of people. And if you're talking about business, and the structure of transported of goods also changed significantly, because as of now Ukrzaliznytsia is almost the only way of transporting products, food to those regions which are now facing war attacks from Russian Federation. I mean, north of Kyiv region, Donetsk, Luhansk, and also Kharkiv. So Ukrzaliznytsia helps a lot. We know now Ukrzaliznytsia helps all military regions and military administrations of Ukraine to accommodate the state reserve of food products. And all this is also transported by Ukrzaliznytsia. Also, if you're talking about railway transportation, again, during the first 2 weeks of the war, railway cargo has fallen up to 70%. And now we are starting somehow to activate the business and transporting of products. And now the rail shipments are the only possibility of Ukraine to export through the Western, crossing borders with Poland, Romania, Hungary, etc. And for instance, now iron ore companies work with 50% of utilization because they cannot just, they can produce more, but they cannot export more because the capacity of crossing borders of Ukraine with EU countries is really very low. And now the main issue for business and railway operators within Ukraine and abroad to build some terminals which will help to transship cargoes through by Ukrzaliz by railway company. So now what we are doing, like Bangi and many agri companies, we are now trying to ensure exports through western part of Ukraine, through Poland, Hungary, and Romania. It's not that figures that we did previously, because Ukraine exported each month roughly around 3 million tons of grains and oils, and through railway we may do roughly up to 500,000 tons per month. So these are the losses of the company. If you're talking about Bangi invested, donated $2 million to Ukraine. $1 million we donated as a humanitarian aid refined oil Alena, which we produce on the local market. We also now actively cooperate with Dnipro, Donetsk, Luhansk, and Kharkiv military administrations to help to accommodate state reserve of sunflower oil, and this oil used also as a humanitarian aid to baking companies to cook bread, and also we help with this refined oil, sunflower oil. So this is the situation we have now.
Thank you very much, Olga, for this very detailed report about the situation in logistics. Igor Nazarov, he's the CEO of Brown-Forman. Igor, thank you very much for being with us. It's your turn. We'll hear you.
Hello, and thank you for having us here and giving us opportunity to share about Ukraine. So just a month ago, I was Mr. Jack Daniels in Ukraine. Also, I was, and basically I am a chairman of Spirits Committee at European Business Association. Unfortunately, I cannot say anything positive about current state of business, neither for my company, nor for the industry. There is no alcohol sales during the war in Ukraine, but moreover, most of the stock of our international market players was literally destroyed. I don't want to say call other companies' names and so on, but our main warehouse, which is located not far from Kiev, it is actually under the control of Russians, and for last 5 days we don't know anything about it. But I believe you can imagine what is happening over there. But overall, the estimation is that only international premium brands, which had their business in Ukraine, they lost more than $50 million over the last couple of weeks because all the warehouses were destroyed. And when it comes to overall warehousing capacities across Ukraine, as Tomasz mentioned, it looks like Russians have a direction to create a humanitarian catastrophe, because they are destroying one by one huge warehouses with food, big logistic hubs of our key retailers, and so on. And basically with that, my main topic for today would be not about, let's say, alcohol business in Ukraine, but rather about the population of Ukraine and humanitarian catastrophe which is approaching. 2 weeks ago, I was appointed an advisor to the Minister of Agriculture and Food in Ukraine in humanitarian aid support, and I'm now working in a team of professionals from the business. We have guys from logistics, from retail, from FMCG companies, even local famous producer is with us, like a celebrity one. And we are taking care about getting food to Ukraine. For now, more than 4 million people already left Ukraine, and more than 6 million have been relocated from central and eastern Ukraine to the western Ukraine. And according to very first census, there are more than 5 million people now cut completely out of any food delivery. I'm talking now about eastern and northern part, as well as a couple of southern cities as well. So Ukraine is approaching extremely big humanitarian catastrophe. According to different calculations from different sources, the need for food in Ukraine is already started, and it will be counting at a level of 1 million tons per month for at least next 6 months. And basically that's a kind of a huge problem which our country is facing right now. And unfortunately, what we are observing that the international help, including all the big organizations like World Food Program, like Red Cross, United Nations, etc., for now they are delivering only between 5 to 10% of what is already needed, and the scale of this need will be just growing, unfortunately. So I'm here just kind of, if a month ago I was a man who was kind of paying all the bills in Ukraine, being like Mr. Jack Daniels and, inviting everyone for parties, having a good time and so on. For now, I'm just going across the world and asking for any kind of food donations and support for Ukrainian people. I have shared presentation with Carla, and I believe she will be able to distribute it to you. Well, that's it what I can say for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Igor. Yes, we have a presentation from Igor explaining the project you have to try to help in the logistics field, and we will share with all our audience after the webinar. Olga, we have a question for you from Maria Gabriela Mazzino. She's from Milan, from Italy, and she asks if there's any chance that the ports can be unlocked soon, as Ursula von der Leyen suggested a few years ago.
Yeah, I responded in the chat. However, I will repeat that we do not see progress in this issue as of now at all. Moreover, there is a very high risk of mine danger, because we have heard that the channel Bedelka, which connects Nikolaev with Black Sea, I mean Nikolaev is one of the main ports who exported grains. There are mines. It was mined. That's why we do not know. We do not see any progress in this as of now. I know that Ministry of Infrastructure is working hard on this. However, we do not know. Moreover, we know that roughly about 100 vessels, trade vessels, are now in the ports of Ukraine, and we know that three vessels just disappeared from Berdyansk port with grain, and companies just do not know what is the status with that vessels.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Olga, and also to Oliver and Igor for your testimony and for being with us this morning. And great job, guys, in all the things that you're doing in Ukraine. As you have seen, there's a lot of impact of the situation on businesses, and also this impact has a very deep consequences on the people, on executives, on workers. And that's why we suggested to Anastasia Shevchenko, she's the general manager of Lugera, to share with us its point of view, her point of view about what are the opportunities that we also may have on hiring these professionals, not just presential but also remotely, to Spanish companies. So Anastasia, thank you very much for being with us and sharing your point of view.
Hi, colleagues. Happy to be with you, happy to share. 40% of our Ukrainian business is dedicated to people and to matching them with the jobs. And it is now a zero, of course, in Ukraine. But what we did is we now work in two dimensions. One, so 60% of our people are in Ukraine. We offer the vacation for all of them, but each and every decided what is the best way for them. So they are mainly in the western part of Ukraine, and it is a huge, big army of recruiters. So we offer the Ukrainian companies of critical infrastructure, especially the FMCGs, to make sure that people have products and water in shops, that we do all the recruitment for free on the Ukrainian side, definitely. So they can always rely on us. And if any of our colleagues today also need help, we are willing to do that. And then we contacted each and every our European partners, and we were very welcomed in each and every nearly European country. So everybody sent us a huge, big list, a wish list, I call it, yes, for Ukrainian refugees. As you know, more than 3 million of Ukrainian people already left. We still have a lot of people in Ukraine willing to work, but as you've seen from the presentation also that Anna shared, they potentially lost a lot of job offerings now. So what we so far see on the European market is that first, there is a big willingness to take Ukrainian people. It is both refugees and Ukrainian professionals remotely. So I will mostly focus on how it can work and what we already see and establish as opportunities here. Yes. So first of all, several words about Ukrainian professionals, how not I see them, but how the European companies are seeing them, because our global recruitment team from Ukraine is working with 48 to 55 different countries. So what they say about Ukrainians is that Ukrainians are very service-oriented. We have a lot of outsourcing companies in Ukraine, so we know how to do business with being really client-focused, which is cool. We are extremely hard-working people, so the people who are hired either remotely or working on site now, if they're out of Ukraine, they're very hardworking, very dedicated, passionate, and motivated. So this is what really differentiates the Ukrainian experts, even from locals. I'm sorry. So we have a very high working ethics. We are very much used to work in multinational companies and in multinational countries. So the culture is always in Ukraine. We have a lot of international companies working there. We as Ligera are also working with a lot of international companies in Ukraine. And it brings with it a lot of this, European approach. We mainly, even if the regulations are not in Ukraine, we were already doing business European style and with the procedures which are in place in Europe. So there will be a lot of astonishment for us if we start. And the innovation is at the very high level. So the innovation is at the DNA and at the core of the Ukrainians. So it means that a lot of projects, the worldwide international companies and brands were starting in Ukraine. And this means that a lot of professionals who are now available either remote from Ukraine or already out of Ukraine as refugees, they have great hard skills and extremely high and good soft skills, and also the experience of working with a lot of digital projects that have been piloted in Ukraine. The languages, yes. Well, this is a tricky point. So what we agreed with companies in Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, Germany, Romania, Spain, and Slovakia, this is where we have the most of the demand and a lot of refugees. is that companies are willing to skip the local language requirements, nearly all of that, but English has to be there. So this is one of the points of opportunities how we can cooperate, because in most cases the experts will be with great English, but very low potentiality to have the local languages. Spanish language we know, so not a lot of us, but still there is higher opportunity, I think. And I also looked at the positions and jobs now available for Ukrainians. And I also talked to 3,000 different companies in the countries I named, in terms of their willingness to work also remotely or with Ukrainian refugees. It's a yes in all cases. And here are the positions and jobs where they see that they can hire Ukrainian people. Of course, number one goes IT. Yes, there's no question that IT sector was and is one of the strongest maybe in the world. So our IT developers in Ukraine definitely are having the strongest hard skills and high working ethics. And this is why companies are absolutely willing to hire them even remote, because we have a lot of teams now left in Ukraine where the international companies just stopped abruptly in one day working with them. We don't have like a huge list of companies like that, but it happened. So IT goes first, then also everything what is in the sphere of engineers, welders, construction workers, and electricians. As men are not allowed, they stay in Ukraine and they help however they can, the army, and to gain the victory faster. They still can work also remotely, and companies are willing to do that as sales and marketing managers, as business developers, HRs, accountants, especially recruiters. So a lot of companies need now recruitment help of Ukrainians knowing also other languages, because to hire Ukrainians, if we speak of non-skilled workers, they need Ukrainian language. That means that this is also a huge opportunity, which absolutely can be covered also remotely. All digital services, PR and corporate communications, also business automation, of course, IT and sales support, all the call centers as well, and of course non-skilled workers. So there's a big, huge list, which is now on the side of the European community, being on the table for Ukrainian refugees and Ukrainians staying in Ukraine who are now without the jobs and who are willing to work remotely, also with very much simplification in languages. And I know that within the last days, Spain has seen at least 30,000 of Ukrainians already coming to your very welcoming and warm country. So I hope you also will have a look in simplifying the hiring procedures. This is what we can see now in main countries where a lot of Ukrainians are. So all the paperwork is now into the stage of like one day you can do it. No work permits, very much simplified, and also this local language requirement. If we can go with the English, it can work.
Okay, Anastasia, thank you very much for your presentation. Well, we have seen through this webinar what is a detailed explanation of the situation that businesses and executives are facing in Ukraine. Now it's the time to see if we can help our Spain, and that's the main objective of our project. After the webinar, we'll be sending a summary of everything that's been discussed here during this hour. This will be distributed to the ABA and also to the AAD members and also to the press, because we expect that this initiative can be known as much as possible for everybody in order to help our colleagues in Ukraine. to the Spanish Association members, to our members of AED. We will also share a link with a brief questionnaire that you can complete, explain the ways that you can help the Ukrainian counterparts, okay, as we've been seeing during this webinar. Also, we will share information about the ABI, speakers contact, and also the presentation of this video and some of the presentation that we see during this webinar, and the one from Igor we could not see. Also, we ask everybody for as wide distribution as you can do of this project. I can tell you that the Spanish business community and Spanish executive are very committed to help Ukrainian because of this situation. There are many initiatives and projects in our community trying to help you guys. And also in the chat, we could see how different companies are offering their opportunities. We ask them to fulfill this brief questionnaire that we will put you in information of how we can help the Ukrainian businesses. So thanks everybody. Thanks for sharing your experience, Anna, Thomas, and everyone. All the courage for the times coming. All on board. And well, Anna, I don't know if you want to say something, Thomas, to end the conference.
Yeah, thank you so much, Javier, first of all, for the opportunity. I guess it was very interesting. At least for me, it was interesting to get to know also insights from my colleagues from Ukraine. And I see that even sometimes someone like Olga, they are still in Kiev. I feel that they are really like heroes. I would like just to wish everyone in Ukraine and the whole Ukrainian as a community, as well as to the whole democratic world, really the soonest resolution of this, the peaceful resolution of this very challenging situation. I hope that the war is going to be over soon, and hope it will not be transformed into any type of frozen conflict. So let's hope for better, and let's pray for the peace in the world and in Europe in particular.
Yes, I cannot imagine better words to finish this conference. That's our hope too. And thank you very much to all of you and to all the audience and the Spanish executives for their implication and really willingness to collaborate in this project. So thank you very much and good afternoon to everybody.